Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Year 7 Tutor Evening. A little bit different this year. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Helen Tully, I'm the Deputy Head, and tell you a little bit about the purpose of this evening. Hopefully you're having productive and useful conversations with your children's tutors, and that you've had a look at our amazing gallery of work on the website. For this part of the evening, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the assessment information that we provide to you, go through some key dates, and then I'm going to hand over to Jill Stewart, who's our Head of Maths, and she's going to talk to you about how you can help your child in maths, get better at maths, and then to Lindsay Orrick, our Head of English, who will do the same for English. So some of the key dates, just so that you know, so that you're familiar with the structure of the year. Of course, we've got the tutor evening this evening, and you will have received in the post, or you should have received in the post, a progress check. The next progress check will come at the very beginning of April. Staff will be entering the data in March. We'll have a parents' evening on the 29th of April. What that will look like then, we'll let you know in due course. And then the final progress check for Year 7 will be issued in June of 2021. So as you can see, it's a termly assessment of how they're getting on. Now you'll have received something in the post that looks like this, and that's our assessment of their attainment and progress. Every class teacher awards, it's a numerical system, every class teacher awards a number for homework and against our rich ethos, which is the resilience, industry, curiosity and honour. So for homework, we're making it, this is really doubly important this year with the current situation with students self-isolating. We need students to be very well versed in how to work well at home, just in case. Obviously, it's an important skill right the way through their education anyway. So any child who's got if your child has got a 1 or 2 for homework, then we're really happy with the way that they are going about doing their homework, taking responsibility for it, handing in pieces of homework that are of good quality, using Frog well, and that they're meeting the deadlines. Anything from 3, you probably need to have a quick word with them about it, and anything from 4 and 5, there is a concern, and would hope you'd help us intervene with that. In terms of resilience, industry, curiosity and honour, they are our core values that underpin the whole education that the students have here right the way through to Year 11. So we really want you to look at the descriptors for these and talk to your children about them. If they're getting 1s and 2s, again, for those core values, then it means that they're really approaching all aspects of their studies really well, and we're very, very happy with what they're doing. Anything below that, if you would just help us out by stressing the importance of those core values with your children. These descriptors you'll also find at the bottom of the report. Now, what we don't have, before I hand you over to Mrs. Stewart, what we don't have yet is a measurement of their attainment and progress. And this is just a particular issue for this year because they haven't had, we haven't got Key Stage 2 data, which is what we always use as our starting point. So we've been doing assessments with students in school, and we're measuring their progress from those assessments. So when you come to Data 2, there will be an attainment and progress measure in there, and that will be described for you on the report. So if you just wait for that, and that will be in April with Data 2. Okay, thank you very much. I hope that was clear, and now I'll hand you over to Mrs. Stewart.
Good evening, I'm Mrs. Stewart, Head of Maths, obviously North Gosforth. I just want to spend a few minutes talking to you about how you can help your child with maths and support them from home. The big thing for me is always please be positive about maths. We get a lot of parents at Parents' Evening saying they maybe don't like maths and they hate maths even. Please don't do that, even if you do hate it, because it creates this kind of negativity around the subject, which is really difficult to break over the years. Please, while you're in the house, talk about maths and what's being learned at school. Ask them what they've been learning, what topics they're covering, and how they're getting on, how they could improve. Please find maths in everyday life. And talk about it. I know in the current climate we're not out and about as much, but if you're in the supermarket, if you're out for walks, see if things are there and find the maths wherever it is. One of the big things for me is around homework and home learning, obviously especially in the current climate. I just would ask you, is there a quiet place at home where children can do the homework undisturbed, and can you please check on it? Ask them what they're doing, ask them to explain the work, and I'll talk about the homework platform we use in just a moment. A little bit about the basics for us. Maths is all about a building block, and it's a curriculum that spirals up, and in order to succeed later on, we need some building blocks earlier on in your children's education. Ideally at Key Stage 2, they'll have learned all the times tables, and they'll have learned the 4 operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. There obviously may be some gaps, having missed a little bit of year 6, but we will pick that up over the year. Across Key Stage 3, so year 7 and year 8 and into year 9, they will learn negative numbers, fractions and some basic algebra skills. These are the foundations for GCSE, so please again do discuss them at home. We always get conversations at Parents' Evening when we support with homework of, that's not how I did it when I was at school. Please don't worry, there's often more than one way of doing it and more than one way of how to work out solutions and answers in maths. But please don't be afraid to use a different method. We still add and subtract using traditional column methods, and we talk a lot about number lines, the same when we obviously subtract. Multiplication, in primary school children learn column methods. We've also maybe done grid methods. You may use Chinese methods at home. Please talk about all of them, or whichever one you're comfortable with, because it may be that a child struggling at school and a slightly different method that you show them at home may just pick them up and move them on a little bit. And division, which is always the one everyone hates, we still use the good old traditional bus stop method, as all the children tell me it's called, or we can do repeated subtraction. Big one for me this year is calculators. We have given all students in year 7 a scientific calculator, which will see them all through GCSE. It should be available in all lessons, maths and non-maths lessons. We will teach them how to use it confidently, because a calculator will only do what you ask it to do. The one thing I will kind of put out as a plea is, should the calculators get lost, they get broken or whatever else, can you please replace it with an identical one, because it's the one that we use, and we, like you say, we teach them in lessons. They are available from the LRC should they be needed. I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about homework, and our homework platform we use in school is a bit of software called Heggerty Maths. You may have already seen it because we have been using it with the children already. Heggerty Maths is split up into 2 sections. There will be a video tutorial, which we often call step 1, and then there will be a quiz that the children do after they've done the tutorial. Both of these steps are really, really important. Step 1, where they watch the video, they're normally around about 10 minutes long, and what we ask the children to do is to watch the video at home with sound on, pause it as they go along, and we want them to produce a set of notes, normally in the back of their exercise books, but it could just be on paper that they can bring in and stick in if they've forgotten their books or left them at school. The tutorial will ultimately help them show method, show layout, which will allow them to then move on to the quiz. The quiz normally is about 10 questions long. It may be a little bit shorter depending if they're bulk questions. We would want your children to then do the quiz in full, so we would write the questions down like they would in class, show they're working out, and put their answers in the books and back into Heggerty. It will then mark the work for them and say whether it's correct, and if there are any corrections that need doing, we ask the children to do it at home. We always say anything less than 80%, and it should be redone, which is what we often get questions about, is if I didn't quite understand it, what can I do? If they're stuck, they can re-watch the video again, and please make sure that they've done that. The examples that are covered in the tutorial are replicas of what will be in the quiz. So if they've made notes, they should be able to use their note to answer the quiz. Worst case, underneath each section there are what we call building blocks, which are the prerequisite learning that they need. So if they're struggling with a particular thing because they don't know times tables or they don't know a bit of prior knowledge, they can go back and watch the videos on that prior knowledge to help them move on. We always also get asked, can we do any extra? Ask your children to show the login page, but there is what we call the donut, and the donut shows the skills that they've mastered in green, anything that they're a little bit less confident in amber, or quizzes they've done less than 70% in red. The blue skills are probably we haven't covered them yet. So we would always say go back and have a look at your amber skills and red skills and make any improvements you can. Please talk to them about Heggerty, but if anyone's struggling, your children can always come and speak to classroom teachers or myself, and we'll help them and support them that way to ensure that we are moving forward. That's it from me, so I now want to pass to Miss Oric, which will help support in English.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss Oric. I'm the curriculum leader for English, and I just want to talk to you a little bit today about what you can do to support your Year 7 students at home with both reading and writing. So the big message from me really is that learning does start at home. So students are far more likely to read if they see reading happening in the home. So if parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, if they read and they talk about reading, children are far more likely to foster a love for reading. Students are far more likely to read if they have conversations with their parents about books and about the books that their parents enjoy. Students like talking to their parents about the books that they read when they were children. And students are more likely to read if there are books in the home. So that can be second-hand books bought online, books from the library. But if there are books in the house, students are far more likely to read. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is just reinforcing the importance of accurate written work, even if students are doing homework from other subjects. And I'll talk more about this in a moment. So what can you do at home? I think probably one of the big things for us is monitoring homework. So if you can point out simple errors that students are making in spelling, punctuation and grammar, that's going to really help students in the long run in all of their subjects. So if you can point out errors in capital letters and full stops, the use of homophones, so there, to, and paragraphing. So students should be writing in paragraphs no matter which subject they are writing in. Spelling, obviously not everybody's brilliant at spelling, but if we can correct any obvious spelling errors, that will really help students in the long run. And the use of apostrophes, so particularly for contractions, because the rules are really simple. So where do not becomes don't, will not becomes won't, etc. Just keep an eye on your students at home. Do they have good spelling, punctuation and grammar habits? Also to encourage extended writing as well. So if students are completing homework at home, encourage them to write more, encourage them to extend their answers. We need to build up students' reading and writing stamina for when they hit GCSE. Another thing that you can do at home is to introduce students to new vocabulary. So a great deal of our vocabulary is learned incidentally and implicitly outside of the classroom. So it's the language that students hear in the house that has a really big impact on their vocabulary range. It's a huge factor in achievement at GCSE. The students who have the widest range of vocabulary, they do the best in GCSE. It plays a huge part in determining our routes post-16, and we need to think about how many new words we're exposing children to on a regular basis. So ask yourself, do you teach new or unfamiliar vocabulary to your children at home? A good way to explain new vocabulary and to really embed that knowledge is to get students to say the new word carefully. If they can speak a word, they're much more likely to use it in their writing. Get them to write it down. Give a student-friendly definition if you think that'll help. Give multiple meaningful examples, so get students to use the word in a range of different contexts. Ask your child for examples and clarify multiple meanings or any misconceptions, because we do have quite a complicated language, and it's always good to have those conversations with students. The big thing for us at the moment with Year 7 is reading at home. So we're having a big push with Year 7 on the importance of reading for pleasure. So you don't need me to tell you how important daily personalised reading practice is for students. All of the studies suggest that students who read regularly, they will achieve optimal reading age growth. So the more they read and the more challenging books they read, the better they become at reading. At North Gosforth, we want children and young people to enjoy reading more. We want them to read more often, and we want them to think positively about reading. Now, Year 7 students are part of the reading programme, Accelerated Reader, and students will be having one reading lesson a week, and we want students to see the link between this reading that they do for fun, for pleasure, and their academic success. Now, we're asking all of Year 7 students to read at a minimum 3 times per week at home for about 20 minutes, but you can split that up however you like. Some students like to read 10 minutes at a time before bed at night, or they might read in the morning when they get up, they might read at break, at lunch, but ideally students should read for some chunk of time every day, and in an ideal world, some of that will be reading out loud to a parent. Encourage your child to read at home as often as possible. It's brilliant for relaxation, it's incredibly good for managing stress and anxiety, and it will help students think positively about reading. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but if you can create a culture of reading in your household, your child should see you reading, and this will encourage them to copy that habit. You can do things like start a home library, visit local library. I know obviously COVID poses some issues this year, but we can still borrow books from school, go to bookstores, and just to have conversations about what you're reading. At school, we monitor reading through the reading programme in the first instance with Year 7. So during these Key Stage 3 lessons, teachers are going to ask students how they're getting on with their reading at home. They're going to talk to them about the progress that they're making with books that are borrowed from the library. Students will complete library homework from Miss Pike, the librarian, once every week, and this is homework that's based on the novel that they're reading. So they can get quite creative with the homework tasks and make it fun. Each term, students will take a STAR test, which will provide a reading age and something called a ZPD. Now, the ZPD it corresponds to a book level, and it essentially tells us about the level of challenge that students can tackle independently. So once we get the ZPD for students, they should have this written in their planner, and they know which books to pick from the library. So they need to choose a book which provides suitable level of challenge for them. We don't want students rereading the same books again and again and again, because it isn't going to challenge them academically. Each time a student finishes a book, they will take a quiz online. So we want students to pass their quiz in order to move on to a harder book. So if they score 70% or above, they've passed this quiz and they should move up a book level. So in an ideal world, students will be quizzing regularly, they'll be passing their tests, and they'll be moving on up through the book levels throughout the year, and this in turn will improve their reading stamina, their comprehension, their vocabulary acquisition, etc. We often get parents and students asking if they can bring books in from home to read. That's absolutely fine, it's encouraged. Parents can log on to this useful website, arbookfind.com, and they can search for books to find for their child. So parents and carers, if you're not sure what to get people for Christmas, have a look at this website, see which books your child at home might enjoy. So you can search for authors, you can search for topics, and you will be told the book level, so you can check that it's offers sufficient challenge for your child. I just wanted to end really by just giving you an idea of some popular authors at the moment. Authors like Mallory Blackman, Neil Gaiman, Patrick Ness. These are really popular authors at the moment. The students are raving about their books. If you're struggling to, for maybe present ideas, this is one good place to start. We have some recommended reads here again for year 7, 8 and 9. I know some parents will have older students at home, so if you are interested at all, you can always get in touch with either myself or Miss Pike in the library if you would like book lists, or if you're not sure what your child will enjoy, please feel free to get in touch. And we have here as well a list of young adult fiction for the slightly older readers, so generally students who are in year 9 and up. So if you do have any of those older students, then again feel free to get in touch and ask for some recommended reads. I hope you found this useful today. Thank you for listening, everyone. Please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions, any follow-up questions, and enjoy the rest of your evening.